Well, sis, it's time to shake them off. Welcome to Wake Up Happy Sis, the show that jumpstarts your day with a bang. We're strolling down these self-care streets as we navigate the maze of wellness and healing. We're helping you live happy, healed, and whole. And we do it all with a hearty dose of belly laughs for good measure. Stay tuned and get ready to wake up happy, sis. Welcome, everybody. I just want to say happy Monday. I'm your host, Leanne Dulce, here with the Wake Up Happy Sis show. We're broadcasting live on KCCR Cityscape Radio, where we're changing the narrative for our people because we're always telling our stories our way, and unapologetically so, right? Somebody's got to speak up for us. So today, we're diving deep into a topic that's close to my heart, and that's mental health in the Black community. We're joined by some phenomenal experts, Dr. Azure Smith-Swan and Dr. ShaNita Nolan, who are going to really help us unravel some myths and share some powerful strategies for wellness. So I want you to get cozy or get comfortable. You know how we do here. Grab your favorite cup of whatever you're drinking, because we don't judge here. And, let's get this conversation started. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
I'm fine.
Same day. It's a marvelous Monday, and I'm excited to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and if you are a mother, happy belated Mother's Day. Even if you're an aunt or a caregiver, I wrap that all up in the same kind of sentiment.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Yes. So our topic today is Breaking the Silence, Mental Health Unveiled. And before we jump into that, I want to learn a little bit more about you ladies. So Dr. ShaNita, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I am Dr. ShaNita, and I am a leadership and professional growth expert. I'm a podcaster. I recently lost my husband last August, so I have the podcast, the Widow's Lounge podcast. But I'm also, most importantly, I am a sold out servant of the Most High God, a discipler, and a transformer of lives. And I'm also an advocate of mental health, a maternal and domestic violence, and sexual assault.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And Dr. Azure, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm Azure Smith-Swan. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a certified financial social worker. My main focus, when it comes to me doing therapy with my clients is trauma. I also like to focus on managing stress and anxiety. I like working with people that are going through life transitions, but the number one thing for me is working on trauma. I like to do that through a lot of different techniques, whether that be CBT, DBT, EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I'm also getting started with holistic therapy. So that includes yoga, sound, meditation, breath work, all those different types of things. I'm a new author, so I do have a book coming out this week. And, I love all things mental health. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here on the show today. So let's just jump into it. So I want to kind of talk, kind of set the foundation for kind of understanding mental health within the context of the Black community and sometimes our more unique experiences and or challenges with identifying it, getting help for it, things of that nature. So because I think it's important before we just jump in and say, hey, maybe these are some of the myths, these are some of the other things, let's talk about the context, because I know in our community, I think most people have somebody in their family who is suffering from mental health issues that may or may not have gotten help for it, depending on how old you are. I'm in my 50s. Let me add Sharonda in. Hey, Sharonda. Welcome.
Ladies.
Good morning.
Hello.
We got some first-time listeners. Well, hey, Leary Latrice, welcome. We love all our first-time listeners. Thank you for joining. We're talking about mental health in the Black community, and I want to kind of start with some of the, like I said, historical context. Um, I think for generations, systemic barriers, racial trauma have really influenced how mental health is perceived and discussed, kind of, amongst Black people or in the Black community. Um, I feel like we've had a legacy of challenges in the mental health, and you couple that with ongoing discrimination, socioeconomic disparities, it just kind of creates this backdrop where Black people experience a lot more mental health issues, or maybe I wouldn't even say a lot more than others, but we're definitely experiencing it. And sometimes I feel like we may not always know how to navigate or manage it.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been, I know in my growing up, mental health was not something you talked about. Whatever happened in your house stayed in your house. You were not getting help for it. And so how have you guys kind of seen that shift to now? I think a lot of millennials and stuff, they're like, I need my mental health. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more open. So what do you guys kind of feel about kind of the historical context of mental health and how it's been treated and looked at in the Black community and kind of where we are now?
I definitely think that um, mental health has been stigmatized a lot within our culture because, of course, if we're admitting that we're having mental health issues, people look at you and think, oh, they're crazy, or all these different things. But when you think about it, we really have been talking about mental health, even though we don't really know. Like when people say, my nerves just bad. Okay, so you have, some anxiety, or they might be like, he's a little off or something like that. I'm pretty sure you can think of a lot of different phrases that you've heard that indicate that there's some type of mental health symptoms going on, but not really knowing what to call it. So I definitely think that that's been a thing. And then now I think that there's a lot of access to information about mental health, whether it be Google, social media. A lot of people are on TikTok. So, whether they're self diagnosing or, just watching videos about educational mental health type things. But there's definitely been a shift, and I'm a part of Gen Z. So, I work with a lot of clients, that are part of different generations. So I see the differences in how they all talk about mental health. And I really like seeing some of the older generations come in and say, hey, my daughter told me about this. And so I'm looking more into it. I'm trying to get everything on track. I'm trying to learn how to cope. So that's been really great to see.
Well, for me,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, for me, my journey began in middle school, and it was definitely a time when it was rare in our community to seek mental health care.
Mhm.
But fortunately, my mother recognized the signs of my crisis early on, and she acted promptly and secured for me a lifeline through weekly counseling sessions. So I would leave school every Thursday to attend counseling until my peers learned why I was leaving school early each week. And so the bullying that I already faced intensified, and, taunts of being called crazy echoed in the hallways. And that sanctuary that I found in counseling became a source of dread. In fact, I need more. And it's just a stark lesson on the destructive power of stigma and shame. And even in the faith-based community, having your faith questioned, if you're seeking counseling or you're on medication, but no one's telling you to deny, you know, chemo or high blood pressure medication or anything like that. Um, so I've been in and out of counseling. I've had multiple diagnoses: PTSD, major depressive disorder, anxiety and panic disorder, and chronic insomnia. And I've there's been all types of barriers. First of all, access. There was times when I couldn't afford it. The stigma, um, just not wanting people to question my faith, difficulty finding culturally competent therapists or even those that were skilled enough to treat my specific conditions. And then in 2019, because of a therapist shortage, that forced me to drive 3 hours from my home for care. So I've seen it all. But one thing that I've done as a parent and as a mentor to young ladies and young men is to have a safe space and we can talk about how we're feeling, and to talk about that it's okay to get help. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay, to struggle. Things are going to happen because at some point in our lives, whether we're just dealing with stress on our job, marital issues, relationship issues, or whatever, we're going to need some type of counseling, even if it's only temporarily. And I think early care really makes the difference.
Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, when I was younger, today I'm appreciative of the naming that thing, because when we were younger, we didn't have the language, and we didn't know what that was called and stuff. People couldn't get the help that they needed when Leanne and I, when we were of age and stuff back in the day, and because we didn't know what it was that wasn't shared with us. We knew something was wrong with maybe a family member or something like that, but we didn't really have an understanding along with the proper naming that thing convention that we have today.
Yeah, and I agree with something that Dr. Azure said, which was the stigma, and really dealing with the stigma around it stopped a lot of us from getting the help we needed early on, because it was if I don't talk about it, it didn't happen, right? There's no such thing, you just had that one crazy uncle or crazy cousin. And, we didn't have the access to the tools and the things that we needed. One, because of racial discrimination. Those kind of things just weren't available in our communities. So yeah, you were going to have to take a drive out. And if you're a kid, that means your parent has to miss work to get these services. And if you didn't have an advocate in your school, or your parent didn't know how to be an advocate, you were not going to get that care. But then, like Dr. ShaNita was saying, is you have all these kids now who don't even understand. They're just doing what kids do, and that is, now they're bullying you.
And making
Now you
things.
don't even have a safe space. So where do you go, and how do you get the assistance that you really need, when now that thing that's supposed to be your lifeline, that's supposed to be your help, is now the source of ridicule and things by your peers? So how do we navigate those conversations so that we're teaching our children to be compassionate, about the things that other children are going through?
One thing that I've actually been seeing a lot of is, well, of course, there are, bullies at school and people that will shame you if they feel like they notice some things that they may deem not normal. But I used to run the intensive outpatient program at this hospital. And so I was working with teens that had attempted suicide and were stepping down to 3-hour group therapy 3 days a week. And so a lot of them, and also I've also worked in schools too. And so I feel like a lot of children are becoming more compassionate and understanding. And then, of course, they see these things across Instagram and TikTok every day, all day. So they're able to name certain things and they're able to understand. But one very interesting thing that I saw while working at the hospital is that there were a lot of kids that came through and they purposely wanted to go to the hospital. So some of them, you know, maybe had an attempt or were extremely depressed. And that was probably their first time there. And then I had some other patients there, and they would say, like, I love coming to the hospital because I feel like I can relate to everybody that's here. These are my people, this is my group. And we tell them not to connect with each other outside of therapy because sometimes that could be a little harmful. But a lot of them have been doing that, purposely going to the hospital or saying certain things so that they can go to the hospital to get that type of support.
Now, I think that's interesting, that because it gives them that safe space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so now they feel like they have a safe space where I don't feel crazy anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other people, I see there are other people having the same kinds of issues I am. And I think that one that helps stop the stigma, because as they're feeling comfortable and seeing, then they're maybe not as prone to be feeling shame about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also think it's important that they're building those bonds, but that does bring up the kind of trauma bonding. So can we
Yeah.
talk a little bit about trauma bonding? But first, welcome, Cornelia. How are you?
Hey, sorry for the delay due to technical and time issues. So glad that I can be here and join in.
Yes, no problem. We definitely understand technical difficulties. So just jump on into the conversation, whichever way you can. I want to ask, how can we actually combat the stigma of mental health in our community? What are some things that parents can do, that professionals can do to help kind of combat the stigma that may still exist in some communities?
I would like to just to say something regarding that question. I think that it's really, really important that parents have an open dialogue with their children and talk about it. Talk about that elephant in the room. Let them know, educate themselves, sit with their children. My children are adults now, but we used to have family meetings and we talked about those things. We looked on sites like the National Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health America and looked at the signs and gave them the language to be able to share what they're feeling emotionally and to not feel like they couldn't. And just by me even being open with those that I mentor, I do parenting classes and talking to the parents. So there's a sense of awareness that they can also advocate for their children if their children are being bullied, and letting their children know that it's okay, because a lot of it, because of the bullying, you begin to question yourself and is this okay? Maybe I am crazy. And just not using that word crazy, that's a barrier right there. And people are quick to label people and to call them crazy. And the thing about it is that most people don't even know what it means to be mentally healthy. So if more people understood what it meant to actually be mentally healthy, they will realize that they have some form of mental illness, even if it's just anxiety. And I forget the name of the speaker that was mentioned, like taking nerve pills, because my grandmother always used to take nerve pills, but she had anxiety. There was mental health illness all through my family, but people said, "Oh, such and such must have been dropped on their head," or making all these, because they didn't know how to frame it. And so having those conversations, having awareness, education, advocacy, and becoming champions to make sure that we can hold our elected officials and policymakers accountable, and even educating them and continuing to have those conversations. And if I'm not wrong, I believe it's Mental Health America that has something for teens so that they can even become advocates as well.
Nice. Nice. Well, I definitely feel that we have to improve kind of the power of our voices and advocacy in our community. I had a friend whose grandson was going through some mental health challenges, and her being that strong advocate, sometimes that's the difference between um, somebody thriving or getting through it and somebody really feeling like ending their life is the best option. So I definitely think that we need to have more avenues for advocacy in our community. And that means to the politicians, but that also means in our community, people who are speaking up, people who are willing to share their stories so that people understand every single person has had a struggle, has had a challenge, has had some sort of a mental health issue. And I really like what you said about understanding what being mentally well is and what that means, what that looks like. Most people, I think, are so used to surviving that they think this is mental health, and what you're doing are trauma response after trauma response after trauma response. Um, so I'm definitely a big fan of advocacy and of community and bringing people together. Um, we got some more people coming in. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Aviela. Sheena. Thank y'all for joining. So let me ask this. So, Cornelia, you didn't get to introduce yourself. So, Cornelia, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really very glad I can join this interesting conversation. For my background, I'm come from a completely different side. I'm an electrical engineer, and then I was really in this very male-dominated, very pressured environment. So I got sick myself. And being an engineer, I understood there's always more than one solution.
Yeah.
And the solution that was outlined from traditional medicine, to me, I just felt this is not my way. I just can't go down this route. And so I was looking for alternatives, and I tried a couple of things. And then I discovered like quantum physics and quantum science, where kind of everything is just a frequency or is energy. And of course, this is my world. I'm an electric engineer. I know what a frequency is and what an energy is. So I learned some frequency healing techniques, and I started, experimenting on my own with myself. And I really had quite some success. And then, more people were coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I developed now is my own model in a way, that there are different layers of our energy, and of course a big one is our mental mental energy. And my task is always like, because what I see is from traditional medicine, most of the time it's only about working on the symptoms. But my task is always to look behind the scenes and find out why is the symptom in the life of this person at the first place, right?
Yes.
And when you really find the cause of it, and you work on these traumas or whatever, and you really find the cause of it and heal that, all the symptoms go away automatically. And so that's what my approach is right now. I'm a researcher, a scientist, so I always want to, go to the root cause and work there and not on the symptoms. And that's what I'm doing here. I have I'm not so much working at the moment with young adults, or I'm only working because coming from the corporate world with people with burnout. And there it's more about, most of the time there is really kind of this driver or whatever that keeps people pushing, doing something, even if they don't, have the energy or they can't even do it anymore. I had one client, she already had their third burnout. And then when I spoke with her, she said, I just can't stop working. I feel bad when I'm not sitting in front of my PC and I'm not working. And then we had a 1 hour session and we really digged into it, where it was coming from. And like after this hour, she looked like 10 years younger. And then she said, you know what? Wow, it's so different. And I now close my PC and I go out for a walk. And I haven't done that for months. And so that's kind of my way of approaching these mental health issues. It's more about, why is the person in this situation of the first place? And there's always a reason for that.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely am a fan of root cause analysis. And I think that's where a lot of, when you're looking at going to therapy and getting professional help, to me, that has to be the foundation, is where you can't treat the symptoms, because you're not giving people freedom. What you're giving them is a Band-Aid, right? Because they still have not addressed the underlying cause. And I think that's so important to point out, is a lot of what I found in working with people and just in reviewing my own life and circumstances, a lot of times what we think are our personality traits are trauma responses. They're, mental health coping things that we've put in place to protect us. And when you get the help that you need, you're starting to break down those walls and learning how to really process your feelings, understand what's going on, why it's going on, where it maybe came from, and how do I work through that so that it doesn't consume me every time I get triggered. So we got to take a quick break, quick pause for the calls. But then we come back. I want to talk about some mental health myths versus reality. So I'll ask some questions and you guys can just jump in with your version of what, is this a myth or is this reality? So you're tuned into the Wake Up Happy Sis Show on KCCR Cityscape Radio, where we're changing the narrative for our Black and brown people, because we're always telling our stories our way. We'll be right back after these brief words. Hey, sis. Ever feel like you're on the verge of a meltdown? Are you overwhelmed from juggling your job, your family, and trying to fit in me time, but seriously dropping the ball on that last one? Guess what? You're not alone. Introducing the Burnout Recovery Kit. It's your 14-day lifeline to go from burnt out to lit up. Get ready to reclaim your joy, energy, and that I got this attitude. Grab your free ebook, a purpose-driven workbook, daily email prompts, as well as SMS boosters and Q&A sessions. It's like a spa day for your soul, and guess what? It's totally free. Don't waste another minute feeling drained. Go to officialburnoutrecoverykit.com right now and kickstart your transformation. The Burnout Recovery Kit, because you deserve to be at the top of your own to-do list. Don't just cope. Thrive, sis. All right, and we are back. So I want to talk about a few myths versus reality. The first myth is that mental health issues are a sign of weakness.
We already know that's a myth.
Yes, we know that.
So how do we navigate that space where, even though it is a myth, you have a large contingent of the population that still feels that way. So how do we help them get past that? Get past that feeling of there is some inherent weakness in me because I need help.
I usually like to tell my clients that, it's a sign of strength for you to be vulnerable and transparent, and acknowledge that there are some things that are going on that might not have you feeling your best, and then seeking out that help. And sometimes it can be a tedious process finding a therapist. Sometimes you got to date your therapist and see what you like and what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't work. Um, and so even just going through that whole process is like, hey, you have some strength to do this whole process, to get all the paperwork done, and then actually start to figure out ways to cope with what it is that you have going on, or get to the root of the issue. So that's how I like to frame it to my clients.
Okay. I love that. And Cornelia, what about you? You have thoughts on that?
For me, coming from the technical world, I always try to compare it. I don't know if you heard about it, that we had a little bit of an energy crisis 2 years ago over here in Europe. Yeah. And in a way, it's completely the same, right? That was kind of the first time people realized that without electric energy, our social life completely breaks down, because nothing is working, right? And I always try to compare it with a burnout. In a way, it's the same thing. In a way, it's just our body showing, there is a problem and you need to look into this problem. So I think it's not about weakness. It's more about ignoring something for a long time, and then now you have to, get in touch with it, but you can solve it. And I think this is, we solve the energy crisis here, so we can also solve the reason behind this burnout. And as you also showed in this video, it's more about people, if you're in your burnout, then it's not only about overwhelm, it's about you forget about your purpose and also the joy in your life. So you're not seeing all these things that give you energy and that brings also, positive aspects into your life. So it's a little bit like changing the perspective on show these people there's so much out there that's really, worth doing and enjoyable.
Yes, definitely. Okay, next one. You can snap out of mental health problems if you try hard enough.
That's a game I play with myself. That I try when I have stuff that I need to get done, and I do have the depression and anxiety and all of the things and stuff. And you ladies might be mad at me for this, but I speak very rudely to myself, in the way of, F your doggone disability. We got stuff to do. We don't have time to just be laying down on the doggone job. You see, Leanne, did y'all see her face and stuff? It's a whole doggone thing that I like. For instance, traveling. I was definitely scared by myself going international, because my husband always, makes the arrangements, and I just follow around like, like happy little duck. Here's my passport. And but this time it was me in control and making sure that I got off at the right place. It just, oh my God, it was a whole doggone mental thing that I went through in the airport, like things that even weren't even my fault. It was causing me some stress and stuff. Well, it turns out when you get to the airport before everybody gets on their shift, stuff won't actually be working right and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? Because I'm not familiar with, messing with the kiosk and all of the things. And I mean, it's exhausting to try to focus and to try to combat the anxiety, and you got somewhere that you need to be, and it's just you. It's not, it's, I can't depend on anybody but myself and God and stuff. And it's like, okay, Lord, just help me not stress out and freak out before I get to where I'm going. Or please, heaven forbid, Lord, don't let me call my husband. So yeah, I know I said I was going to Aruba, but I'm not there. And I need some help getting out of kidding. This is my real life. I am a whole Lifetime movie network movie. And it's the, because the anxiety, like the breathing and the pulse, and everything is just loud, and I have to fight to doggone concentrate and remind myself it's not that bad. You've been traveling since you were 18. Why are you tripping getting on a plane this time? Why this time? And so it's a me, myself, and I thing, and we argue a lot sometimes. So
And I think when you're of a certain age, that also comes from the feeling that we didn't always feel like we had people we could rely on to help us, navigate certain situations, or we didn't have people that we, or the people we trusted, we feel let us down in some way. I feel like that happens somewhat in my life, because for me, I definitely feel this myth. It stops us from getting the help that we really need. Because when you're telling yourself, get over it, get over it, get over it, you don't even know what you are getting over, because you have buried whatever the root is. Sometimes it's so deeply buried. I mean, mental health conditions can have so many complex roots. One parent said something back when you were 4, or there's so many different things that can happen, right? And there's so many other factors that I think we have to know ourselves. You have to know your body, how it responds to trauma and all these things, so that you know when you've passed the point that you can help yourself, or your friend circle can help you. Sometimes you do need a professionally trained person to help you navigate your feelings, your thoughts, your actions, just to understand where's all this coming from. You know, just like with depression, I suffer from depressive episodes too, where sometimes it's hard for me to get out of bed, or I just have no motivation. My depression shows up as I have lack of motivation. I just will sit and do nothing for hours because I literally can't do anything else. So I think we have to know that sometimes our problems are more severe than snap out of it, get over it.
I think that's a good point that you just made too. And one thing that can help with, the stigma associated with mental health. A lot of times, um, we, or let me not say we, but a lot of times, some people might say, "Oh, you're lazy. Get out of bed. Why are you in bed all day? Oh, you're dirty. You haven't gotten a shower. You didn't brush your teeth or anything like that." And people are not even associating this with depression or feeling ashamed to even um, share that these certain things are going on, because they feel like, oh, I'm just lazy, or I'm dirty and different things like that. So I always, when I'm talking to new clients and I'm asking them about certain symptoms and I ask them about their hygiene, that's one thing that I try to normalize too. Like, hey, whenever we're depressed, sometimes it is hard to get out the bed. Sometimes it is hard to get a shower, brush your teeth, and do all these things, because it takes up a lot of energy. And, when you're depressed or experiencing other things, the last thing you want to do is get out the bed, get ready, and do these things that we feel like take up so much energy. So I feel like, normalizing some of these symptoms can help with lessening the stigma.
Mm. I can only agree on that. It's a kind of an energy game, and the more energy, because as you said before, if you have only low energy, then you're completely in this survival mode. You just want to make the next step or get through the next day. And when you have more energy, and that's what I also show my clients, life looks completely different, because when you have more energy, you see more solutions and more opportunities. And on top of that, you even feel and know that you have the energy to execute them. And this is kind of giving these people also their power back, that they kind of, okay, now I know I have this energy and I know I can do it. Because as you said before, yeah, if you can't get out of bed, it's very difficult, and it's even, increasing the pressure, because you just can't do it. But if I empower people and so, if you do this and this, you will feel more energy, and then they feel empowered and they say, okay, now I can do this. And this, I think, is also very big game changer.
Definitely. I definitely think also is when you keep telling yourself, I'm supposed to be able to snap out of it, but I can't. Right? How is that wreaking havoc on your spirit, on your feelings, how you see yourself? Because now I should be able to fix this. I can't fix this. I can't fix myself. Now you're dealing with the fact that you have failed at something, which can cause further issues and, um, bad feelings about your self worth, all of these things. I think that's another reason why we have to really be open to saying, hey, I might need help. This is something that I can't resolve myself. I've tried. And knowing that there's nothing wrong in getting help. So we have a question um, from Aviela. She says, have any of you experienced anxiety when learning new things? Then you begin to doubt yourself and your abilities, resulting in mental and emotional imbalance that manifests as ailments in the body. Yes.
So this it was some of the stuff I had been doing for years prior, that when back in my other life when I was working, and it's stuff that I felt comfortable doing, but for some reason I started questioning myself, like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You know what you're doing. What is this? And it is the anxiety of the learning a new thing. But sometimes when it's something old that you've been doing repetitively for quite a long time, and you just, like, you feel like you got to go get a second opinion or something, and that used to happen to me. I'm like, what is going on here? How come I can't do my freaking job? What is this? Or it's something so doggone simple and repetitive. Why is it an issue now when I've been doing it for over 2 years now and stuff? Why it was some psychosis going on. So yes, I agree with her.
But I think if you really kind of have done stuff for a long time, and all of a sudden, I think there is a huge resistance, because for some reason you don't want to continue because you feel it's not right for you. And I think this huge resistance, you just ignoring it because you said, I've been doing it for years now, so why can't I continue? And this huge resistance is kind of sucking off your energy. And that's why it's even you have less energy available for really doing this stuff, and that makes you even more anxious and nervous. But in a way, it's good to look into why is there so much resistance, because probably you intrinsically know that you want to do something else or something different.
Well, for me, was someone else talking?
Nope, go right on ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, so something like that recently happened. So I started a a new job, and this past January was a year. But right after starting that new job, my husband became terminally ill. And so I was taking care of him and working the new job, trying to learn it. It was work that was not unfamiliar to me. However, when you go and you start with a new place, you got to learn their way of doing things, their language, and what have you. And and then I lost my husband, and then my partner, my co-program manager. We run a advanced leadership development program that's a 9-month cohort, where she developed breast cancer. And so I was already reeling within, all of the emotions and the pain from the loss, and, also trying to manage my mental health so I didn't go down that dark path, and checking in with myself and making sure that I was getting the support that I needed. But I needed to step in for her. And on top of this was supposed to be me learning and us doing this together so I can have the opportunity to observe her. And I just became so overwhelmed and paralyzed with fear, to the point that I started having upset stomach, severe, migraines, all types of things started to manifest because of that fear. I didn't want to let her down. I was also dealing with my own, loss, including the secondary losses, where there's things that my husband did that I didn't know how to do, that now I have to learn how to do. So all of these things were happening at the same time, and I just got just physically ill. And I just had to take a step back. I had to take control of the situation, not try to fix myself, but just to be open and transparent with my leadership and said, look, this is what's going on. And I just got to take a moment for myself, so I can navigate through this, and in a healthy way that's not going to cause harm to me. And they gave me the permission to do that. But I gave myself the permission also, because sometimes I don't give myself permission to take the time. But I gave myself permission and was compassionate with myself, and realized where I was, and that it's a journey. It's not something that I can fix just like that. I can't snap my finger. there's gonna be time, there's gonna be setbacks, and I needed a combination of different interventions and support to help me along the way. Also, I was grateful because I had that support in that work environment, because I haven't always had that work support. So
I think self-compassion and giving yourself grace is a good point. And of course, I feel like we all have experienced anxiety when learning new things just because they're new. But one, personal experience I have is witnessing my mom deal with this. And so she actually wrote about her experiences in a book where, she felt that she had imposter syndrome. But upon breaking things down, when she started these new jobs or she was on these new teams, she realized it's not just the me having anxiety thing. There's a lot of, systemic racism that's at play, biases, being excluded at work, maybe being compared to, white male counterparts, and feeling like you have to do more, you don't know enough, and different things like that. So she was so stressed from all of this anxiety that it manifested as fibromyalgia. And so every time she gets stressed, she has these flare-ups, and she can't even get out of bed. Her whole body, she's just in pain. And it's sorry if you can hear my daughter crying, but it's just, it's been kind of painful to, see my mom deal with that. But I feel like a lot of other Black women, or just women in general too, have been experiencing some of those same things.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely, as of late, the newest thing that happens to me is these, I can't eat. I have these just phantom stomach pains out of nowhere when I'm overly stressed or I'm nervous about something. And this has just come up in the last kind of few months, just with some personal things that are going on in my life. And one thing that I will say that helps me is practicing mindfulness. So we have to one realize that, um, as Trevor Oss, one of my mentors, says, it's not hard, it's just new.
Mm.
And we have to look at, instead of being distressed by this new thing that we're learning and we're letting it, is how do we turn that into what's called eustress, which is essentially good stress,
Mm.
the kind of motivates you, like you, Sharonda, when somebody tell you you ain't shit, you not gonna be shit, and you're like, oh, okay, bet, here we go, let me show you how.
Challenge accepted.
Right,
Absolutely, that part.
that, to me, that's eustress. So you're taking what normally may have been a negative and you use it to motivate and spur you to success. So I think if we look at how can we turn what is distress into eustress, right?
Mm.
How do I turn these negative feelings around so that um, I can use it to motivate me to move forward, right? I feel like that's one of the things that we have to do. I practice mindfulness, so I will do full body scans so that I know when stress is happening, when anxiety is happening, how is my body responding to it? Not judging it. It's not a good or a bad, it's just an is. Because you have to know your triggers. We cannot fight what we do not know. And we have to be honest with ourselves, open and honest about the things that are going on in our lives, about how things make us feel. And I feel like, at least for me and a lot of the people I know, it's hard for us to share our emotions because we're the strong one, we're the foundation, we are everyone's support for everything. And we don't really have people that we can go to. So we're used to suppressing our emotions, suppressing our feelings, suppressing our pain. And we lock it away in a little box somewhere in our little spirit, our little soul, until it erupts because
Mm.
we've not dealt with anything. So I think, process those feelings, right? Process the feelings. Try to understand why you feel that, because this is just something new, that maybe you can't do it, that it isn't right for you, that you're not going to succeed. Challenge those imposter thoughts, right? And do little things, and have little successes along the way that tell yourself, okay, damn, I can do this. That's some things that I would say, Aviela, you know.
Uh, I'd like to take this one. She says that, is there some type of a comeback song or dance
Yeah.
or tea or something? For me, when I was working, one of my favorite movies was The Wiz, and um, I like to murder the hits, if you will, and I change the words of the song depending on how I'm feeling. Like the song with Michael Jackson up on the crow's post,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how he's singing, "You can't win." I say I can win, and just and I'm all the way inside of my head, typing and doing all of the things. And at the end of the song, yeah, I can do this. I got this. And so, yes, to answer her question, yes, there's that victory song, or a space that I create, or a bubble, even if, for that. For when I was doing my master's, I was still working at the Veterans Administration Hospital, and I had a really great boss, and he didn't mind that I was doing my work classes just as long as my work was done. So back then, I was a great multitasker. I had like 8 arms, just I was in everything, doing everything and stuff. And it was getting inside of my head because my motivation was my fourth or fifth grader at the time, because he needed to see a reason to excel in school. And so one day I'm sitting at home, and I'm helping him with his homework, and he's doing his homework, and I'm doing my own. And he's like, "Mama, I see your hustle." I was like, what you talking about? He said, you go to work full time, you go to school full time, you take care of us, and you're making the grades. I was like, I really appreciated that because my son got to see his mom churning and burning, trying to, because the way to get to my promotion was through a degree. So all of those plates were spinning, like he said. And when his grades came out, he would be like, Mom, what'd you get on your report card? I was like, what'd you get on your report card? So it was a motivational type of a thing that my son, you never can tell who's watching you live your life while you're trying to figure this thing out and stuff. Right. And so for my fifth grader to be like, if my mama can do all of this, I was like, of course, son, you got one job. You got one job. So if you see me doing all of these things and stuff, that means that you can too with way less on your plate. So it's, the motivation that you get from your kids who are your biggest cheerleaders. This boy even crushed my groove. I was outside. We were in the pool. He said, Mommy, you can't be outside in the pool because you got a 30-page paper to write.
Oh. Excuse me, Professor.
Exactly. I mean, the boy wasn't lying. I mean, so I had to slink back into the house with my head down and cry all like, I want to go outside and have fun with the family. And I'm just banging away at the computer and stuff like that. So that stress was definitely that, Leanne, about pushing for your last name, like Dame Dash says. So you're doing this so your family can have a better quality of life, and it comes through you and your partner doing the things. And so, yeah. So.
And thank you, Shana, for listening. Hopefully you come back in. We are here every Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern live. So you can always come back, hang out with us, So as we kind of bring this to a close, is there one tip that you would leave with somebody that may be suffering from some mental health challenges? One piece of advice or an affirmation or something that you would like to leave?
I would like to say something about that. When you are close friends with someone that is suffering and they goad you into telling them your issues, but instead of returning the favor, they think that suicide would be the way to go instead of working through. For me, being left behind, because my best friend did that to me from high school. Doctors, is there anything that the people left behind to deal with, somebody that meant something to them? Because I was mad at him for a very long time, because he robbed me of the chance to be able to be there for him. Is there anything that you can help with to help me not carry the anger, and to show myself grace, and to say that something he was going through I couldn't help him with, or whatever? I don't know how to phrase that.
I think you already know, giving yourself, that grace, and not taking on any blame for anything. A lot of times, when people die by suicide, they have already gotten to the point where they've made up their minds, So there are some people that can be talked out of certain things, but a lot of times they've already made their plans. They've already done different things to set up what they want to do. And if they want to go, that's nothing that, you can take responsibility for, as far as like, this is my fault. And if I just would have answered the phone and stuff like that, sometimes people just already have their minds made up.
But what about the people left behind to deal and cope with their loss?
What do you mean? Like, how do you cope with that, or how do you not take on that? Oh,
Yeah, all of the things. How do you not take that on? How do you not carry anger for 32 years? How do you, you know, how do
Because it doesn't
you
help. It doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody.
Mm.
And it's not your decision. It's the decision of somebody else. And the only thing is that you only can accept it. There's no, and if you blame or whatever, it's only hurting yourself and not anybody else. And that's the big step for forgiveness.
Mhm.
Because forgiving is not freeing another person. It doesn't say that the other person did something right. It's all about letting go and freeing yourself, because you are running around with blame and with anger and nobody else, and it's hurting yourself. So for me, kind of the biggest game changer in such a situation is to forgive yourself, especially, and also all the other person. There is nothing you can do. You can't change the past. You can't turn it back.
and
But
also allowing yourself to go through that grieving process too, because of course there's different phases of grief, like the anger, denial, all those different phases. So allowing yourself to go through a healthy grieving process, even if it has been over 30 years. Grief never really just goes away. We just get to a point of acceptance. So allowing yourself to go through those processes on your time, um, giving yourself that grace and compassion, allowing yourself to actually sit in how you feel and feel it and not try to sweep it away. Remembering that it wasn't your fault, and it's not your responsibility. Not saying that you shouldn't care, but it's not your fault that these things happened. And then of
no,
course going to therapy and processing through that trauma and those core beliefs that are attached to that loss.
Yeah. And I would say, in a kind of picking up from that, is also trying to dig into, because maybe you have feelings of having to be somebody's savior. And that's where your guilt is coming from.
mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't save him. Right. So there may be a larger issue that you also have in your life, that you feel like you have to be the one to save somebody. You have to fix it. You're not always going to be able to fix it. I had a good friend, and we've talked about my friend who committed suicide. Um, and realizing, I was like, I just talked to him last month. How did I not, how did I not see? How were you so into your own thing that you didn't see that he was struggling, that he was in pain? But we have to know that everybody isn't going to be in our life forever. And we have to be glad for the time that we did get to spend with them, because his job wasn't to be here forever. Right? His time, we can't question why he was taken away, but just know that you did have that ability to be with him, to love him, and to have him love you as friends, that you're blessed to have had him in your life, and he was blessed for you to be in his. But you couldn't fix his problem,
Mhm.
right? And I know that still hurts you, and I know you're still mad at him, and we've talked about this. Just apologize to yourself first, because you're carrying weight that is not yours, that was never yours to carry.
Yeah,
I think you should also
you're
write him a letter.
Yes.
Write him a letter, or sit in a chair, have another chair in front of you, and pretend that he's sitting in that chair, and have that conversation with him. Everything that you wanted to say, you can get everything off your chest. Like, friend, why you do that? Why'd you leave me like that? Just have a conversation with them.
And listen, because the answer might come to you when you're trying to have that conversation.
Oh wow. Okay.
So when you're still, and that the answer may come to you in the strangest way. That's what I found. when we talk to the ancestors, to the spirits, I'm very big on that. They make a way sometimes to let you know, but we have to be listening. And that's why it's so important that we tune into our own frequencies, into our body, into how we respond, into all the things, so that we're paying more attention. But it's 11:05. We are a little bit over time, ladies. So what we're going to do, I would love for our guests, if you would like to share, if you have something, coming up, you could definitely share that. A final thought, let people know how they can connect with you, if they're looking for additional services, or if they just want to see who you are and how you get down. How can they connect with you? We're going to start with you, Dr. Smith-Swan.
Okay, so one tip that I want to leave behind, and it might sound so simple, but go to the doctor, while you're also seeking therapy, because sometimes these issues could be stemming from our diets, our lack of sleep, our lack of vitamin D, just sunlight, different things like that. So I'll also recommend going to the doctor. If you want to connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram at AZURELCSW. Psychology Today, if you're interested in therapy. Dr. Smith-Swan, I'm based in Texas, or LinkedIn at Dr. Azure Smith-Swan. And then I do have a book coming out. I'm a part of this mental health anthology called Voices of Wellness. I talk about my trauma growing up, my experience working with those that struggle with trauma, and then trying to hold space for my trauma clients as a therapist that was dealing with her own trauma. And so I talk about that in that book. And if you are interested in purchasing that book, it comes out this Wednesday, and you can find that on my Instagram.
All right. Dr. Nolan.
I'm just going to end with one fundamental truth, and that is that mental health is physical health, and both are indispensable to our overall well-being. So give yourself some grace, take care of yourself, and know that recovery and managing your mental health, it's a journey, and just allow yourself to go through and grow through that journey. You can find me on LinkedIn, Dr. ShaNita Nolan. I have a book, it's Indestructible, Journey from Pain to Promise, and you can purchase it from our website, ShaNitaNolan.com, or you can also purchase it on Amazon. I'm also a speaker, a coach, and a trainer. You can visit my website, Circle of Trust Leadership, for any training or speaking opportunities. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Cornelia?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I would like to jump in with the tip you mentioned. And I have one free tip actually on my homepage. It's www.corneliakawann.com. And there you can download a free book, and it's all about stress management. And there I show you, because what you actually already pointed out, Lian, is that, okay, we even have a mental problem, but we are sometimes so disconnected from our body. And it's so important to reconnect with our body, to really, as you say, to feel the emotions, to feel the stress somewhere, and then to react on it. And that's what I show, kind of 2-3 minutes exercises where you really can release acute stress. And I also published a book and at the end of last year. It's called Change Your Energy, Change Your Life. And there I share all my 3 minutes exercises, because I figured out sometimes, most of the time, you need support and help in that moment. And in that moment, most of the time, you don't have time to meditate or do something. So these exercises, they never take longer than 3 minutes, and how you can manage your energy in a way, how you can, do some quick tapping to recharge your energy in that moment when you really need energy. or even to clean your energy before you go to bed. We clean our body, but most people don't clean their energy body. So there are a lot of like energy tips. So, and the goal is that you really have more energy to live your life. And that's what I propose, and what I really, want to see, that people sparkle, and that you can feel their energy.
Yes, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, Sharonda. Any final words?
Do the work on yourself so you can be your best self for the ones that you love. By going to, I actually have a therapy appointment right after our show today.
All right.
So don't be afraid of the things that you're about to discover through your therapy, because you are the one that's in your own you are the one that's in your own way.
Yes. Yes. And you can also connect with Sharonda at bookkeepingforlife.com. Going to get them books done.
Yeah, so I can do some therapy on your finances.
See? Financial therapy. Love it.
See? It all just works together and stuff.
Yes. And so as we wrap up today, I definitely want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to our guests, Dr. Azure Smith-Swan, Dr. ShaNita Nolan, and Cornelia Kawann. I want to thank y'all for joining us. It's been a great show. We didn't even get to talk about all the things we want to talk about, because the hour just seems to fly by. But you guys are now officially part of the Wake Up Happy Sis Show family, and you're welcome to come back and to visit us. Come on the show anytime. We would love to have you guys back. So I will leave you guys with this.
Thank you so much for, opening this space and holding it so that people really can kind of exchange. And I really appreciate the way you are supporting others. And I think please continue it. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
We're definitely trying. I will leave you guys all with this, and then we're going to jump out of here. First, don't be a troll in my comments, sir. We see you. Don't come here doing that. That's not what we do here. Okay? John Silver, don't do that here. That's not what we do. That's not cute. I don't even know what you're thinking, but you leave the area alone. No, don't do that. But outside of me having to get Mr. Silver together, just know that it is okay for you not to be okay all the time. There is even with my business, Wake Up Happy, everybody's not going to wake up happy every day. But what the goal is for us to learn how to turn any situation around so that we can get back to happy, so that we're not just surviving, we're unapologetically thriving. That is our goal here. And we're happy that you could spend a little bit of time with us today, but we do got to go and get this show on the road. We'll be back Thursday. So hopefully you will tune back in with us. And with that, I think we're out. Y'all have the day you were meant to have, because you have control over how you react to all the things that happen to you. So make it a great and a transformative day. And we'll see you later.
Thank you. Lots of energy, ladies.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of